Once upon a time, in a small and peaceful town, there was a narrow old street that most people passed by without paying much attention. At the corner of that street stood a little café. It was called Sunrise Café. The café was not big or fancy. In fact, it was quite simple. The wooden chairs were slightly worn out, the tables had small scratches, and the walls showed signs of age. The paint was fading in places, and the ceiling fan sometimes made a soft creaking sound when it turned. But despite all of that, there was something deeply special about this place. It was not the building. It was not the food. It was the feeling inside. A feeling of warmth. A feeling of safety. A feeling of being accepted. Every morning at exactly 6 a.m., the cafe door would open. The person who opened it was a young woman named Emma. Emma was not wealthy. She was not famous. She did not own anything impressive or expensive. But she had something far more powerful than money or status. She had kindness. And she had a smile that made people feel like they mattered. Every morning, she would clean the tables, prepare the coffee, arrange the chairs, and wait for the day to begin. Even on days when no customers came, she still opened the cafe. Even on rainy mornings when the streets were empty, she still opened the door. Even when she earned very little money, she never complained. Because to Emma, the cafe was not just a business. It was a place where people could feel human again. And every customer who entered heard the same gentle words. Good morning. Take your time. You are always welcome here. Most days in Sunrise Café were calm and silent. Sometimes an old man would come in and order a simple cup of coffee. He would sit by the window, staring outside as if remembering the past. Sometimes a student would come with books and notebooks, studying quietly for hours without speaking to anyone. Sometimes a tired worker would stop by early in the morning, eat quickly, and rush back to work. Emma never rushed anyone. She never judged anyone. She never asked unnecessary questions. To her, every person who walked through the door deserved respect. Slowly, people in the town began to notice something unusual. It was not the menu. It was not the prices. It was Emma herself. Her kindness began to spread quietly through the town like sunlight slowly filling a room. One morning, heavy rain poured over the town. The streets were wet and empty. The sky was dark and heavy, as if it carried sadness. Emma was cleaning the counter when she noticed the cafe door slowly open. A small boy stood there. He was soaking wet. His clothes were completely drenched. His hair stuck to his forehead. His shoes were dirty and worn out. He looked exhausted, like he had walked for a very long time. He did not move. He just stood near the entrance, unsure if he was allowed to enter. Emma immediately walked toward him. She knelt slightly to meet his eyes and asked softly, "Are you okay, dear?" The boy did not answer. He avoided her eyes. Emma smiled gently and said, "You can come inside. It's warm here." She did not wait for permission. She brought him a towel. She carefully placed a warm cup of milk in front of him. The boy hesitated for a moment, then slowly sat down. He held the cup with both hands. And for the first time that day, he felt warmth. Not just from the milk, but from the place itself. After that day, something changed. The boy began coming to the cafe every single day. He never ordered anything. He never asked for anything. He simply walked in, chose the same corner seat, and sat there quietly. Sometimes he looked out the window for hours. Sometimes he rested his head on the table and fell asleep. Sometimes he just stared at the floor, lost in thoughts no one could see. Emma never forced him to talk. She never asked where he came from. She never asked why he kept coming. She only said, "You are always welcome here." At first, some people in the town found it strange. They whispered among themselves. Who is that boy? Why does he always sit there? Does he even have money to pay? But Emma ignored all of it. She believed that kindness did not require explanations. One evening, when the cafe was almost empty and the rain was softly falling outside, the boy finally spoke. His voice was very quiet, almost trembling. Why are you kind to me? Emma looked at him and smiled softly. Because kindness doesn't need a reason, she said. The boy stayed silent for a long time. He looked down at his hands. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said something that changed everything. I don't have a home. The room became completely still. Even the sound of rain outside felt louder in that silence. Emma did not react with shock. She did not ask more questions. She simply nodded slowly, as if she understood more than words could explain. From that day onward, Emma quietly began taking care of him. She always kept a small plate of food for him. Sometimes it was bread and butter. Sometimes it was warm soup. Sometimes just tea and a few biscuits. It was never much. But it was enough. The boy slowly began to change. His shoulders relaxed a little. His eyes lost some of their fear. And sometimes, very quietly, he would say, "Thank you." Those two words meant more than anything else. Emma never pushed him to open up about his past. She believed that some stories take time to heal before they can be told. As weeks turned into months, something unexpected happened. People began talking about Sunrise Café. Not because of advertisements. Not because of discounts. But because of something they could feel. A strange peace. A quiet warmth. A sense of being accepted. More people started coming in. Some came for coffee. Some came just to sit in silence. Some came simply because they had heard about the kind woman in the cafe. And slowly, Sunrise Café became more than just a cafe. It became a place where people felt human again. One winter evening, the air became extremely cold. The wind was sharp, and the streets were almost empty. Emma waited inside the cafe. 6 p.m., no boy. 7 p.m., still no boy. 8 p.m., silence. Something felt wrong. The boy had never missed a day before. Emma stepped outside and looked around the empty street. But there was no sign of him. That night, she could not sleep properly. The next morning, 2 police officers arrived at the cafe. Emma felt a sudden sense of fear. One of them asked, "Do you know a boy who used to come here regularly?" Emma nodded slowly. "Yes, why? Is something wrong?" The officer looked at her gently and said, "That boy was reported missing 2 months ago." Emma froze. The officer continued. "He came from a very poor background. He had been staying in a shelter, but he ran away." Then the officer added softly, "He left something for you." They handed Emma a small envelope. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a short, handwritten letter in messy handwriting. "Dear Emma. Thank you for treating me like a human when no one else did. Your cafe was the only place where I felt safe. I don't know where I will go next, but I will never forget your kindness. Because of you, I believe there are still good people in this world." The boy. Emma could not speak. Her eyes filled with tears. But she did not wipe them away. She simply stood there, holding the letter tightly. The boy never returned. But something changed in the town forever. People became a little kinder. A little more patient. A little more human. They began to smile at strangers. They began to help each other more often. And Sunrise Café became a symbol of something invisible but powerful. Kindness. Emma never became rich. Her cafe never became a luxury place. But she was content. Because she understood something important. I may not have changed the whole world, she would sometimes say quietly. But I changed one person's world. Sometimes, we believe small acts don't matter. A cup of milk. A kind word. A safe place to sit. But sometimes, those small things become the reason someone keeps going. If you were Emma, would you have done the same?